Hello there. It's another Wednesday. It's another We Are Developers Live, and we're here on the go, actually. I have to leave immediately after this for the airport to go to the Vienna office to meet the other people from We Are Developers and talk about things. Well, I'm going to meet them tomorrow. I'm going to have dinner first, and then we go from there. So, Daniel, how is things on your end?
Yes, very well. I'm a little bit jealous, I can't lie, because I wouldn't mind a little trip to the continent, as we call it here. So yeah, it'd be good for you to see everybody in the office. Say hello to everyone from me.
Will do, will do. I also bring a lot of sweets and Easter. We baked a little Easter lamb and stuff and bring that along. So hopefully it will not arrive decapitated in the hand luggage, but we'll see. It's going to be like a bit awkward, like here's your decapitated lamb, but we'll see.
I love
So
it.
we got tons to cover today and cool stuff to come. Dan, I think your mic is set to AirPods.
Oh, has it slipped back? I apologize. I'm going to slip that across. Yes, you're right. Here we go, live, and hopefully I'm fixed.
Yes, you're not as tinny and not as like thin sounding anymore that you did before. Talking about skinny and thin sounding and everything, we have got a great guest today, and that's David Benson, also from the wonderful city of London, where hopefully his connectivity is not going to conk out because we had that issue a second ago.
If AirPods would make me skinny, I would buy some.
I mean, if you only eat AirPods, you will get skinny. You also will die, but that's a side effect, I think. So, David, what do you do?
I'm mostly front end and team leadership these days, but I've had a long and complicated career starting in design through front end, back end, sysadmin, project management, full life cycle development for tiny clients through to working for massive blue chips and global names. It's been fun, it's been rewarding, and it's become quite challenging in recent years.
I mean, I feel like we're back in the days where we had to fight the cousin with Dreamweaver thing, where it's like, oh yeah, well, we could pay a lot of money to do a website, or we could do it with an agentic environment, blah, whatever, no code thing, and then we will not need you. And I mean, back in the days, I always said, like, okay, let your cousin do it, and then in half a year's time, I charge 4 times the amount because I have to fix what he broke. But
I mean, I've done both of those things. I have both been the cousin and done all the fixing, but I just don't want to do that anymore. I want to do beautiful greenfield projects and do stuff right. I've had enough of legacy mess.
Yeah, but that's the problem. I mean, legacy will not go away, and I mean, like, especially now with everybody that worked on like frameworks on mainframes and in COBOL and these kind of things. All one of those is either going to become a pensioner this year or is already dead. So we will have a lot of stuff to maintain in the near future about this, right?
I think there's 2 sides to it. There's always work for legacy engineers, and there's people who are dedicated to that and love it. And I think the other side is it's a rite of passage that you have to go through it as becoming a good developer. And there's a hell of a lot to be learned from it. But it's not something that everybody wants to do on their day-to-day.
Now, I collected lots of stuff to talk to, so let's go right into it. The first one, the big one, of course, is that the Claude source code slipped kind of with an npm package. There was a zip file with the whole code in it, and then like a few hours later, somebody came up with that thing, which basically is a training course on the source code of Claude, like teaching you what every bit means and what it's doing. And Daniel, you looked into it, and you were confused about it as well. I'm quite sure it was generated to 90%, but somebody doing a course on that is just wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's also, it does show, and we'll get into this a little bit in some of the other stories, that we do end up speaking quite negatively about AI in a lot of ways, and I think for good reason. And I mean, assuming this course is accurate, right? There's potential there for that to be quite a useful kind of process for people to go through in terms of extracting from perhaps your source code some hopefully quite useful, going beyond just docs. It's that sort of public facing and it being a course. So I think it's quite interesting. I wouldn't know though how accurate that course is. I'd love somebody to look in and actually compare, because how much of that is hallucinations? I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, it's incredible that people have turned this around in this time, but it's going to require some serious analysis. But I mean, this is always the problem with anything that's generated, unless you know properly what the actual answers are and how to analyze it properly. How do you know it's accurate? And if you do know those things, why do it in the first place?
Good question.
I think the leakage was also interesting. That was basically just a misconfigured script to actually roll the thing out to npm, and it actually published the source code with the binaries. And I think
so. There's two sides to it. The source code should have been published, but it should have been published somewhere secure. But the way it was exposed, and this is interesting, it is exposed people's knowledge, is that it was linked in a source map, and loads of people last night were just going, well, this is terrible. No one should ever be releasing source maps. And I'm like, you do not know what you're talking about. I'm going to put on my David Whitney hat and go and hate everyone right now, which is, I have another hat of my own, which involves hating everyone too. Don't think I've only learned that from David. There's nothing wrong with source maps. What are you talking about? No. It's absolutely fine. It's the fact that pointer went to an unsecured bucket is the problem.
I mean, I've seen that before. I mean, one time I saw a fab icon that had a zip database in it because the build script went wrong. And I was wondering why there was a 16 megabyte fab icon on that website that was requested on every HTTP request. And I found like an internal database for a company that way. So yeah, look at your stuff. But this was pretty cool to actually take a look at, like, also, I mean, we always talked about documenting our source code and doing the kind of thing. But if you can really create something like that just from the source code, it's either been really good, well documented, or it is lots of hallucinations. So it would be interesting to dive deeper on that. But let's not pretend that pretext that kind of thing. The other bit that everybody was going bonkers about is pretext. That's Simon Willison talking about it. So pretext is basically a TypeScript renderer that allows you to render text on canvas, but it's super fast and doesn't have any of the other issues that we had before when we actually rendered things onto a pixel platform. It doesn't do any DOM interaction, and it doesn't do any reading of the computed styles or anything like that. I don't know what it does, but people are going pretty bonkers about its performance and what it does. The first thing that when I saw it, I was like, okay, you render text on a canvas. I cannot copy and paste. It's not accessible because screen readers don't get it. But then I had friends of mine actually look at it and run Claude over it and actually generate an interface for screen readers and all kind of stuff. So it can be done, but this one actually everybody went crazy over the weekend, and it is really impressive. The person who did it is, I think, part of the React team. But yeah, I always wonder about, like, these kind of things are great, but what problem does it solve that CSS doesn't solve yet?
So, I mean, the examples it shows off are well over the top, showing off the absolute limits of its power. But we constantly have issues with guessing or measuring the size of text when rendering. And frequently doing that causes a lot of redraws, repaints, which makes it really expensive. And this basically does it all off screen on canvas, doesn't affect your live view. So it can do those calculations and go, okay, when you open this accordion, I know exactly how big it's going to be. And so I can make it lay out without reflow and everything. And it's incredibly clever. Most of its use cases are far more boring than the demos. This section of demos is really much more practical with the accordion and so forth. It makes me kind of sad that it was produced with AI. I'm sure it was done really quickly. And the stuff about the AI loops I found kind of depressing. I feel bad that the person who wrote it hasn't actually done all the work and the maths to have that now deep understanding of how to make this work. It's been done, but not by a person, and that knowledge doesn't really exist. Yeah, we can replicate it as long as we have access to some slot machine that can do these things. But, that guy's just been a project manager for the code. You know, he doesn't understand the code that's being produced. He can analyze it and understand it, because all good engineers need to all good project managers do need to have some understanding of engineering, whether traditional engineering or software engineering. But of course, many of them also don't. I'm sure this person actually does. You said it was someone from the React team. They're probably a genius.
I like that one as well, that basically said that there's like much more we can learn from it, and that goes into the details of it and the technology of it more. Because I mean, like even animating accordions in CSS, we had to use min height instead of height to animate, because we couldn't animate height before, and these kind of things. So it's interesting to read into that one as well, to see like what this pretext might mean in the nearer future for rendering and what people do. And I talked to Dan before it, like I understand that Google Sheets is using Canvas, because if you have to render like millions of lines in a spreadsheet that needs sorting and everything, then probably the DOM is not your friend. But it's an interesting one that this made the rounds so much, and so many people looked at it. Now, Dan, you got really excited about that one when I sent it to you, that like and in your notes, David, you were less enthused about it. So that's the one about the social media is populist and polarizing. AI may be the opposite. So Dan, what did you learn from that one?
I think, you know, before when I was actually kind of still at university and things like this, I was going down the academic route, and I was very much studying the kind of impact of technology on kind of society. So this is right up my street of what I'm interested in. And I think we have definitely seen that there's a kind of polarization on social media, and it's obviously been monetized and, you know, exploited in lots of ways. But I'm not convinced that the AI is the opposite. I think that's too kind of hard, you know, as a kind of position. He's almost making it sound as if like AI is so good at nuance and so good at kind of finding the middle ground, and that's, you know, a plus. However, we all know that it's not. It's just good at kind of justifying its own position and kind of softening it. And it does a lot of that, so it doesn't sort of sound too extreme in either direction. However, I think that there is an interesting idea there that, of course, it's going to be more important where we're all getting our information from, and it being harder to verify that information because it could be created by AI, etc. But at least there might be something in there around the future being a kind of place where we do kind of have some authority still in, you know, there'll be news outlets, and they might actually be through the LLMs, but that perhaps that LLM will actually soften it in a way that, I mean, maybe I'm sounding very optimistic here, soften it in a way that journalists won't, and journalists might be a little bit more biased because we're humans. I don't know. I'm optimistic. I'm hoping there's a positive in there, but I'm also kind of worried that, David, you're going to make a good point and convince me of the opposite. Go for it.
Well, I do think the journalist here is being wildly utopian, unfortunately. My notes open with the line, "Good Lord, have we learned nothing?" AI can be used for all kinds of good things. But realistic AI is the new engine for the creation and promotion of dramatically accelerated levels of populist and polarizing content. So, I mean, yeah, we could be creating moderate chatbots and moderate viral content that calms the waters. But who's going to be doing that for a start? Who's going to be paying them to do that? How can they afford to do it? How are you going to make people want to interact with this stuff? I mean, how is that going to work when everybody else is producing stuff that is created for maximum engagement and virality and for winding people up? If people wanted moderate content and cool heads to prevail, would we be in this situation in the first place? No. The human brain is so easily hacked, and people just lap it up.
Yeah,
true.
I think I think there was a bias in the product that he used, the way he used AI, that basically it gave him that impression of being more moderate because he actually used it. But if you use the free version, the ad promoted version of every AI thing out there, it will give you the rage baity things all the time. So I think there is a way to use AI in research that will give you the middle ground, that will make it reason in on itself and not give you just like the outspoken things. But it's an extra effort. So the way that's the biggest thing, that nobody we have no web anymore where everybody gets the same information. We get like every website is basically generated for you to be most engaging for you and to annoy you as much as possible, to click on things and to buy things and to go for things.
I mean, this crosses over with the previous item in our list that we've skipped over about Google going, right, well, let's create custom AI homepages for every website for other people's websites. They're like, no, you can't see other people. We're determining what content people see in every situation now. And yeah, it's part and parcel of the same thing. It's crazy.
Well, you say I skipped it, but actually I was clever enough to come up with that segue to get into it right now.
You're
so
very
that's why
good at
it. And then you called it out for being it, like, so yeah. But yeah, this one ruffled a lot of feathers. That is actually a new patent by Google that would use AI to actually reshuffle people's web content for end users. Much like you would resell it to Yahoo back then or to MSN on those websites that basically mix and match things with other bits. And you don't know that as a publisher on the web, what the end user will get, or if your information gets mangled up. And it's a patent for now. There's no implementation yet. And you could, if you really love people and you think you live in La La Land, and you could say maybe they just the patent so nobody else does it. But on the other hand, Google just had another thing where they changed headlines in search results of news agencies. So it seems it's going in that direction. And the insidious thing about this one is it reminded me of AMP, because when Google came up with AMP, it said like, okay, you're too stupid to actually build performing websites. So we're going to give you an alternative format for mobile that is optimized for mobile, but also rewrite some of the content for you. And I think this is a very,
on the one hand, the weight of newspaper and news outlet websites is insane.
Yeah. But the relying on only their platform and relying on their distribution thing and having the rewrite thing was the bit that people got more annoyed about. Same with like, and I'm jumping over another thing before you get clever about me again right now. Copilot had a problem that it actually, in some pull requests, it showed.
Is it playing the AI readout, Chris? Because there's a pause button at the top, but I had to, I had to find that. It's offensive.
Wait a second. There was now a problem that I had. It started speaking to me for some reason, and it's not the normal voices that speak to me. So it was weird.
It's on the website itself, okay. Chris. It's got an autoplay feature when you open it. I know.
Why the shit would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? But yeah. So basically, Copilot. One big thing was that Copilot used training data, and you can opt out. There's a setting deep inside your GitHub setting that actually says, please don't use my data to train things. And people went bonkers about this. And then there was the problem that there was an ad controversy where people basically, an ad showed up in a pull request. And that was a misconfiguration according to the director of DevRel in GitHub. And I'm not saying, I mean, stupidity is more than maliciousness. So that's obvious that could be a problem. But I would love to see some official statement about this as well. So people got riled up about it. And I think it's with good reason. I think if something starts indexing your stuff, it should be more obvious. And if ads show up somewhere without us knowing, of course, it's going to rile people up and it's going to feel confusing. But so GitHub is basically the ball is in GitHub's court to actually start explaining things. And I reached out to a few people and said like, hey, come on the show. We can talk about it. But I don't know how far that's going at the moment. But yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be surprised if stuff gets indexed. But I mean, the problem, of course, is when you have a code assistant and you point it at your code, you will want to know what goes indexed and what doesn't, and how can you stop it from indexing your company vital code or things that just shouldn't get indexed.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of people like, well, for this stuff, we're just going to use, local open source models, which obviously makes a fair amount of sense. The stuff about ads is a bit of a late breaking development. It wasn't there when I was writing up some notes last night, so I don't have much to say on that. The rest of the story, my notes are very, very brief and not fit for publication.
Okay. So let's talk about more joyful things. This one I loved a bit.
It's so good.
It's like a little game, and you basically have to jump. And okay, that didn't work. But I love the little facial features of the thing as well. Like it's looking after it, it's happy when you perfected it. I realized when I showed it to my partner that when you do it the wrong way around, that's actually easier to play. But yeah, it's like when you go to the ground, it starts going, ooh. My favorite is when you just press it really long, and then it says like, really?
I haven't seen that. It's great. I love the one input games.
Yeah.
There's a really great snowboarding one, and the name escapes me. I'm have to look up on my phone, which is just fantastic. I love playing it whilst traveling on the tube. It's called Alto. There's actually 2 versions of it out, and yeah, it's just simple 1-button control, and you just press to jump. Similar to this, except you're snowboarding and you've got to jump to avoid hazards and do tricks and collect alpacas for some reason because you're skiing down an Andean mountain. Love it. Super simple control, really good fun, great graphics, great character. You know, this is glorious stuff.
Yeah, Cannabelt was the big one, the first one to actually like be just space bar thing, that running man on the collapsing buildings. And of course, this is kind of Doodle Jump, but only in horizontal, because Doodle Jump was, I played that for hours as well.
Yeah.
So that was, that's the kind of stuff that I'm happy when people vibe code as well. You don't have to do that by hand. If you spend more time and effort into making that character seem human, it's actually more interesting than just redoing it again. But yeah,
I mean, I don't know that's necessarily got anything to do with vibe coding. It's a design choice, and people have been making incredibly simple but engaging characters for a very long time. I mean, we go back to our 8-bit games. We did it because that was all the options that we had. We just didn't have that much capacity in terms of graphics, so a lot of stuff was super simple.
So this is a tool to turn your GitHub contribution chart into a space shooter. So that's quite useless but cute as well, I think.
That's what we
like. That was fun. Yeah.
Useless but cute.
And we had this before in the newsletter and also here. So there's actually a tool that allows you to, I don't know why it's linked in right now. There you go. It's basically using the Wi-Fi in your room to actually recognize people around you. So it can do it through walls, and it can do it all kind of thing, and you can try it out yourself by installing it and stuff. And it's actually pretty impressive, and it actually makes you worry. I mean, I remember when Wi-Fi came out and people were just freaking out about like, oh my God, what does it do to health? And there's like all kind of things in your house. I mean, my parents would not open the microwave before it binged because it actually like, oh, there might be radiation coming out. But yeah, it just shows just how much surveillance is possible just with the Wi-Fi signals, and it's a pretty interesting experience, I think. But I mean, I think David, you wrote.
Sorry.
Yeah, David, you said about like
how much radiation there is just everywhere in the universe, and that includes radio waves, much of which is not harmful at all. But yeah, pseudoscience is fun. I think this is fascinating. It reminds me of stuff like Vanek phreaking, which is where you can poorly reconstruct the display from a monitor in a different room from the radiation signals that the monitor itself is giving out. And on that front, it's like super cool. I love all that stuff. The way they're pitching this, I find it really creepy because they seem to be trying to tell people that actually this is something that could be seriously used. And one of the great things about it is that it gets around all kinds of privacy laws. Isn't that cool? What kind of creepy mother honkers are these weirdos? It's an unpleasant sell. I wonder how accurate you can get. Yeah, you can put more hotspots, more cells into a room for higher resolution. In theory, how big a room can you go? You know, how difficult would it be, like on a convention floor, How many hotspots would you need? How much noise do you then get that's going to interfere with the signals and lose resolution? Kind of fascinating, but yeah, it is sold in a very creepy way.
Yeah, those ephemeral and like extra things are fascinating. Like I remember the one where you could put your phone next to a keyboard, and it would find out what keys people press because of the vibration of the table. Or there was one that actually had like a footage of an office, and by filming the plant that was in the office and its vibrations, they could guess what people said around it.
Yeah,
like there's all kind of weird stuff that you can do that way, but like it all feels like you can sell it as like perfect like they do and like as a product, but I think it's a lot of it is just like proof of point rather than like really usefulness. But the other thing was interesting.
Some of these things can be refined to incredible levels. I mean, surveillance tech relies on all kinds of weird things that are built up over time. You know, you mentioned the vibration of a leaf. Well, all sound is just vibration. One way of listening into conversations from a great distance is to measure the vibration of glass on a room, and that gives you some pretty good audio quality with the right equipment.
So that's another bit one. I mean, many people stumbled over that one. Also, like swirling your face. If you actually use an algorithm to undo something, you can use an algorithm to get around it again. Just put a black box over it, and you're screwed. It actually makes so much more, except for in a PDF where you can go after the glyphs that are under it and these kind of things. But yeah, on a JPEG,
it depends how destructive the methodology is. But yes, things like swirling and low-level pixelization. I mean, you can see the recovery is not perfect here. So, you know, I started in design. I've got a reasonable understanding of what's going on under the hood. Obviously, we'll come to talking about some of that later with my recent talk. But what I've always done when I want to hide some text is not just do pixelation. I use a high-radius Gaussian blur, at which point there's almost nothing you're going to be able to reconstruct from that, even if you try to. And then I use a crystallize filter over the top. So you've just obliterated everything. There's no way you're getting anything back from there. This is great advice, though. People need to be much more aware of how many things can be reconstructed. This also applies to de-anonymizing of so-called anonymized data in many other sources. I think it's an interesting way to introduce that topic and let people know, look, you think you've done something clever and hidden something, really you haven't. And then that's a good way of getting into deeper forms of it, going into anonymized data and so forth. Could be an interesting talk there.
I was just thinking something then as well. So I was just thinking then, Chris, I remember a few weeks back we showed I think it was an AI or an LLM had been used to kind of depixelate something, but it was I remember, I won't mention the story, but it was a very high profile news story around some information that was being redacted from some documents. And it was basically, they've been able to measure the length of the words by looking at the font, because I believe it was not a monospaced font. So even things like that as well, you know, combine that with your blur and your crystallize. Absolutely.
Yeah, you can work out there's only so many possible combinations that would fit in that size, and there's only so many of those possible words that would make sense in this context. Let's say it's a name, we already know 10 of the names that are involved in there. This is the only one that fit. You know, these things can be worked out. It kind of also reminds me, when you were talking about games earlier, I was going to mention a little game called Exceed, which is topical, slightly poor taste reference, a bit like Minesweeper on steroids, but it's that deduction thing of going, well, I know what this is, I know what's missing there, I know what information I have here, there's only so much that can fit in this space.
Cool. We have a lot, so we're going to skip the tips and tricks. There's shell tricks that you really got excited about, David, so people can look at those as well. There's animated SVGs. There's video editing that you can tell to re-edit a video with a prompt, which is quite impressive, and a CLI to generate image snippets. But seeing that we already we've been talking a lot and we want to cover some of the bits that you want to talk about, let's play Fake or News.
Yay!
All right, let's get started. Is it a real news item or is it something that I made up? Millions of anonymous crime tips exposed in massive Crime Stoppers hack.
I love it, but I kind of think it's fake. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it is, but I'd love it to be true.
It is true.
Wow.
100 video calls per day. Models are applying to be the face of AI scans.
I mean, yes, I believe this.
I'm going to say no. Why would they need them? Oh,
Yes.
wow.
People need money.
Delivering robot drives through bus shelter, shattering glass everywhere.
It's false. There is some glass in the universe that hasn't been shattered, but most glass in the universe has been shattered. No, that one's true.
Definitely.
Yep. I like how apologetic it looked. Like it was just like, and going around the corner afterwards. So it was great. A 24-year-old Frenchman shows up at a hospital with a World War I shell lodged up his rectum. Doctors had operated on the patient with the help of a bomb disposal expert. He could yet be charged with possession of ammunition.
Too
No
much
way.
detail. It's all 100% realistic. Absolutely true.
Yeah, go on then.
It is true. I mean, how do you explain that this was an accident? This is the weird thing, you know, like
It's quite easy to explain how it's an accident. The difficult bit is getting anybody in the hospital to believe you because they deal with this stuff far too much.
Yeah. They had another guy come in with like miniature horses up his rectum, but he was in stable condition. Okay. Twitch roulette. Discover streamers with little to no viewers and make their day.
Oh, yeah.
That's absolutely got to be a thing, right?
Like chat roulette.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember when chat roulette was a big thing and German TV showed it in the morning show, unfiltered. Not a good idea.
Yeah, brilliant move. I'm sure that went very well.
New study reveals how AI can predict earthquakes days in advance.
Oh, my hatred of AI is getting involved here. What kind of AI are we talking about? I think that is potentially possible.
But are they accurate? They can predict it, but can they do it accurately?
It's fake. Doesn't matter. OpenAI puts erotic chatbot plans on hold indefinitely.
Hopefully, that's real.
I mean, they've been rowing back so much stuff of late, but yeah, I'm going to kind of think that's probably true right now, but I'm pretty sure it's going to come back.
It's news at the moment, yeah. Scientists discover a way to recycle plastic into high-quality building materials.
Oh, I'm just going to go true with that, just out of sheer hope.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of amazing stuff in material science of late.
Sadly enough, fake.
Shame.
Meta's new AI
concrete.
Meta's new AI model predicts how your brain reacts to images, sound, and speech.
Scary. Don't like the sound of that. Please tell me it's
I'm going to
fake.
say false just because I don't want it to be true. I particularly don't want them doing it. It's true, isn't
Sadly
it?
enough news. Yeah, that's the worry.
I knew.
TLS 1.3 implementation flaw in OpenSSL found through differential fuzzing.
That sounds plausible to me.
Go for it. Go for it. I'll go with you on that one.
Plausible. No, I'm going to call it fake. He's trying to trick us.
Yes, got it. Yes. He's worked you out now.
Tesla's newest feature lets cars drive themselves to charge at any time.
I mean, Tesla's newest feature doesn't even allow its cars to drive, so no.
That would be crazy.
0 day in popular Node.js package manager allows dependency confusion attacks.
I mean, that sentence has caused a dependency confusion attack in my brain.
Took me a second. I'm going to say yeah, because it's such a strangely worded headline. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go with you on that one.
Oh, it's fake. There are no dependency confusion attacks. So yeah. But yeah, there's interesting bits in there. It's just it's fascinating to see. I love that some of the things that I thought I would make up, like the Frenchman thing. But yeah, it's an interesting thing that these are happening. I love that Crime Stoppers hack thing.
I thought I would make up like the Frenchman thing is like that's just generally the kind of thing you make up about Frenchmen because that's not very nice.
No.
Okay, cool.
And we would never do that. We would never do that. No, I love that the Crime Stoppers thing. I mean, it's Crime Watch in England, isn't it?
Yeah.
The program,
Yeah.
and
Crime Stoppers as well. Crime Stoppers is the official program for reporting these things. Crime Watch is the TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that in German everything is longer. Like basically the title of the show is Aktensache XY ungelöst. So it's like Crime Watch is like this long kind of thing. Like
Yeah,
really
you
bizarre.
see, this is why that pretext is so important, right? So that you can just drop in translations, because when I had to do a website in English, German, Polish, and Italian, oh my God, having to redesign everything to allow for the ridiculously long words and sentences was really painful. Something that can intelligently adapt really helps with that problem.
Yeah, some things we want to be true, but they're sadly enough not. So yeah, this was Fake or News for today. I think cars have too many features these days, don't they? I mean, it feels so weird. I mean, I'm going to get a rental again, like one of those hourly rentals. And last time I put in reverse, and it showed me a video of a guy getting run over. It's really bizarre. What would that feature be for?
I think Teslas, the feature all Teslas need is a nose, so you can just punch them in the nose.
Oh, maybe like a clown nose and make like a pooping sound when you do it. Like,
I mean, all the cars in the UK end up doing that every year anyway for Red Nose Day. It's just international viewers will probably have absolutely no idea what this is. I do not want to explain. Just Google it.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about clown dating the other day as well. Like, is honking on the first date allowed? Like, when do you throw the first pie? Like, is there like?
It's when they squirt you with the flour, you know that they like you.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Cool. So you built a talk, and you wrote a talk about building the worst image editor. So I just want to show off the bits that I've done in the browser in the past. Like, this is one thing I built in 1996 in Perl, and it kept changing it to other bits and bobs. And it's just ripping out fonts from like demos in the demo scene or intros from cracks on Commodore 64, and then you can actually make your own stuff with it, and you can say like we are developers, and you can save it as a PNG, and it's now all using basically Canvas in the browser. And it was good fun to rip these things and convert them, and maintain it and go from like Perl to PHP to JavaScript, and now to like Canvas and JavaScript to make it everything hosted on GitHub as well. Learning about this stuff, I wrote this long article about like explaining to you how to use pixels inside Canvas, and every time something didn't go right, I had a sad panda here. A lot of it is like Internet Explorer problems and these kind of things that don't exist anymore, but it's still, whenever I forget about how to do it, it's actually a good thing to read up on. I built this thumbnail generator that allows you to drop images there and generate thumbnails from it. We also have, for the videos that we do with Fake or News, I built something similar internally. We use it here as well. Then I turned it into make thumbnails as well. And then I had an image data cleaner, which is basically for a TED talk that I've given, a TEDx talk, which takes out the EXIF data and takes out all the stuff that social media has put in there, to make it, first of all, smaller, but second of all, not traceable, and not like in photos you have the GPS data, for example. That one is taken out as well. And then I have this tile editor, which I had to do for a Commodore 64 thing as well, that basically allows you to paint and you see the tile in the background, and you got like different examples how to do that. And that's all just JavaScript and Canvas as well. And I had lots of fun building those things, because it's just pretty amazing what you can do when you can do in the browser, and you can see the preview live in the background here as well. And we had the mouse path recorder, which was just a simple thing to do like a mouse path, and then it gives you the data back. And David, you asked why it wasn't X and Y in like different things, because it's meant to be for Commodore 64. So this just goes into a binary data stream. And interestingly enough, one of the other things we had at the tricks thing is an SVG animator that feels similar. Like you do like something here, and then you basically animate it and that would give you the React and the SVG code to do the same thing. So that feels kind of similar, but mine just recorded the points. But you gave a talk and you proposed a talk for our conference as well, which we're not quite sure yet, which is Photoplop, the world's worst image editor. So why is it the worst, and what did you do there?
So basically, the story starts when I applied for a job, and they send me a code test, and I receive the details while I'm running around at NDC London. So I'm just looking at it on my phone, and they say, right, what we want you to do is we want you to fetch an image, and then we want you to convert it to grayscale. We want you to resize it. We want you to apply a blur with a strength of from 1 to 10. And I'm like, well, that is a hell of a lot to ask for a little code test. Are you sure about that? I mean, what do you mean by convert? Are we talking about using CSS filters? Are we talking about using Canvas? And they were like, no, you just request the blurred version from the API, or the black and white version from the API, or the version at a different size from the API. I'm like, well, that's not converting anything at all, is it? That's just API requests. Okay, this is totally within the scope of a code test. I can knock this up. Not a problem. But because I am an idiot and a masochist, I thought, well, what if I did have to do that properly? And what if I couldn't use CSS filters, and I couldn't use Canvas, and I couldn't use any of the packages that exist already to make all this stuff easy? What if I actually wanted to do all this stuff from scratch, purely with vanilla JavaScript? And again, because I'm an idiot and a masochist, I did.
So you went through the binary level and you read the JPEG out and basically analyzed it that way, and then did like pixel manipulation on the binary level to do these effects?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, this was the connection that was interesting with the mouse path recorder, because of course the data is just a binary stream. And, you know, it's just a set of bits. And they're going RGBA, 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 but there's no indication there if you don't have that information in the data, which is what playing with streams of data is a little bit frustrating. If you just drop into the middle of a stream, you've got no idea where you are and what you're doing. But yeah, it's cool. It's pretty simple stuff to a certain extent, but we get into some fairly complex things. You know, when you start doing a Gaussian blur, which is some fairly complicated maths behind it, over a large radius on even a medium-sized image, you are talking about millions upon millions upon millions of calculations. And yeah, JavaScript in the browser is going to start to really struggle with that, which is what makes it so bad and inefficient. But you know, in a similar way to the compiler written in CSS that runs at 50,000 times slower than 5 megahertz compiler from the 1980s, it's not really just about whether this is the best way to do it. Half of it's about exploring whether it is possible to get away with these things within these artificial restrictions. And the other half is about how you learn to actually do this stuff. And if you can, my message to a JavaScript developer is, if you can learn how to do this, and I can show you how to learn how to do this in JavaScript, you could do it in a more efficient language as well. And you probably have far greater capability of doing these things and bigger things than you expect, than you perhaps believe. A lot of my talks end with me going, you know, you can do more than you think. Believe in yourselves.
I mean, it's interesting that you started with JPEG, because PNG is so much more obvious. Like it's at least it's lossy, it's non-lossy, it's non-lossy, it's pixel-based. It actually has a compression built in. It's an open format, a standardized thing that you can easily look after. Whereas JPEG went through a few iterations that made it really bizarre. And JPEG XL now, for example, is a completely different thing. But yeah, it's also a lossy format, so you can never trust the pixels that you have in the data set to be displayed the way you want them to.
I mean, that depends on how much compression you applied when you output it, frankly. So you can just simply choose not to. You don't have to compress that. But yeah, it's not ideal. I would like to have done with PNGs. With PNGs, you're still having to do decryption, and that is something that I skirt around because it's not part of the goals of the project. So I used a JPEG decompression library codec written in JS. I struggled to find a PNG one that I could get working, and I was like, I'm going to go with what just works. The compression thing I know isn't a problem for the purposes of what I've been using it, because I am able to encode data inside an image and decode it accurately, which brings us on to the second section of this talk, which is, there's a little story there. There is even a slide in here entitled "How Not to Write a Talk," because the Dylan Schleeman of Half Stack had accepted the image editing talk, and then I was discussing the abstract with my mentee, and suddenly had a brainwave of, oh my God, that alpha channel has just been sitting there doing absolutely nothing. We could hide data in it. If we hide data in it, we can do steganography. If we can hide data in that, well, it's going to be a little bit visible. Can we find a way to make it harder to identify that the data's in there? Yeah, we could stuff it into the RGB channel and use a reference image to decode it against any variation from the original image. It's like having a one-time pad in traditional cryptography. Yeah, this was a terrible, terrible, terrible idea to add on to a 30-minute talk and then have to go and beg Dylan, can I have a 45-minute slot? Because there's more to this now. But it's kind of my favorite bit. There's a lot I really enjoy about this talk. And I still, having given it twice now, I still need to finish doing slides for the steganography section. But it's cool. And we have some video where we get to point and laugh at Law and Order SVU. And there's cute pictures of dinosaurs and stuff. I mean, what more could you want?
I mean, I thought about this in the past as well, but because I always start with JPEG, the alpha channel is visible. So that's, but having a reference image to hide it against is a very interesting way to basically just mask it again. So it feels like a bump map for data to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want any variation in that alpha channel, because we know there should not be anything going on in the alpha channel data. You see 253s and 254s in there instead of 255s. There's something hinky going on. You look at an image, and I have manipulated the RGB channels by one point, 255 to 244 or whatever. You are not going to be able to tell that this isn't the correct data. It also gives you 3 times the data capacity to stuff more information in an image. I think with a 750 by 500 image, just using the alpha channel, that gives you 46,875 characters to play with. Multiply by that by 3 if you start showing it in the RGB instead. So you've got around 150,000 characters. You can transfer a hell of a lot of information that way.
Yeah. What I've done in the past is as well as use every second pixel line for data storage or for steganography, and then just half size it by displaying. So the HTML display would basically just show the other lines rather than the in-between lines where I hit the data.
Yeah, I mean, that works visually, but if anybody was looking at the actual the data of the image, which it's not that likely, but let's say we are in an espionage scenario and you're under suspicion, you don't want that stuff to be visible at all.
I mean, the history behind it with the WEX tables and the story on the other side of the WEX table is very interesting as well when it comes to steganography. Like, yeah, it's an interesting bit, but yeah, it's interesting to go through that. And it seems like a Half Stack and those conferences are the ones that keep attracting those. I remember like 8 years ago at Half Stack, there was somebody who did an MPEG-1 decoder in JavaScript. And you're like, yeah, if you really want to really get brutal with it, then you can make animated JPEG and try to display that one. Or in another half stack in Serbia one time, there was a lady who showed how to show a triangle in OpenGL, writing every line of OpenGL by hand. So that was another interesting one to see. Like
I love all these kind of things. I think there is real value in doing this stuff. It's about, I mean, they can be daft, but they're also about the joy of our craft, and how we learn and how we get deep into the subjects. And, you know, of course I'm going to mention it. Is any of that still going to happen if everyone's just using agents and LLMs to do the work for us whilst we're just forgetting how to actually code?
I mean, that's the thing. I guess where it's still important is edge environment. You know, when you're actually on limited hardware, or when you're in bad connectivity areas and these kind of things, that's where it gets interesting. And under the hood, I think the AI engines themselves need that kind of thinking as well. Like we can, I mean, we shortcut it now. Like Claude Code basically says 90% of Claude Code is written by Claude by now. Like the humans just do the extra bits in the beginning and write the text.
One of the chief engineers specifically said 90% or maybe 100% of his submissions to the repo are written by code. But yes, yeah, essentially they're coming these kind of things that they're saying, if we believe them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Of course, there's like this being like now front and center in the marketing. Of course, there's lots of hype around it, saying like, okay, I mean, we had this in the newsletter last week, I think, or this week, about like how the Google's thing where it said like we gave 20 engineers Gemini and now they're so much more effective. And then we gave 10 senior engineers Gemini, and here's how much crap they generated that they had to fix afterwards. Like there's always the like, what do you do with it?
Yeah.
I think the biggest,
and it's the research, multiple pieces of research that say, you know, people say they estimate their increased productivity between 15 to 20%, but when we measure it, it's actually gone down 15 to 20%. It is mad. I would like to just try and promote my own personal coinage of a word. I'm sure other people must have come up with it. But yeah, when we're talking about AI marketing and the hype and the people who are really bullish on it and constantly pushing things, my word is slopaganda.
I mean, I did hear that slop is the word of 2026. So, you know, it's the time to introduce slopaganda.
Absolutely. I've been trying, but then there's many words I've been trying to introduce for many years to no avail. For example, this is one for Londoners and visitors, but the section of the tube map where the Metropolitan, Hammersmith and City and Circle lines all run together is called the Neapolitan line, because it looks like Neapolitan ice cream. Nobody, it doesn't work. Nobody's caught on. I've been pushing this for 30 years.
Oh, I remember I had a beta had front page at one time where I just turned the tube map around and basically put a vodka bottle on top of it because the circle line looks like a bottle. Like
it used to. It doesn't anymore.
Yeah. So that's like, you know what propaganda means? It's a cockney taking a closer look.
Absolutely. Or it's a goose in a very smart suit.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I always get that about Ryan Gosling. He's old enough to be a gander by now, right?
Oh, God. Pun overload right now.
I mean, I'm here for all the puns. Go through my slide titles. The Gauss puns are magnificent.
Oh yeah.
There's just something you mentioned possibility of talking about. Actually, there's a couple of them in there. Bad slide puns that really date the author. So I've got one called Blur versus Oasis, very much your early 90s UK music reference. And in the section about Carl Friedrich Gauss, my absolute favorite one, which Chris identified, I was very, very proud of him for being able to pull off an excellent joke on top of this one. Ich bin ein Gausslander, which is a reference to a Pop Will Eat Itself track.
Wow.
Which, yeah, and Chris replied with Pop 3 will eat itself. And I was like, dude,
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah, that runs
It's
deep.
double retro. When was the last time you heard anybody mention POP3?
I think beginning of the year when Gmail discontinued it, like basically
did,
the
yeah.
POP3 access, instead of the IMAP access. But yeah, I mean, I remember downloading my emails once a day and then reading them, and with like
Yeah.
Eudora Pro, and like and it was just and then the news groups was the biggest issue, because the people that put the data binaries on top of them, like when you had like the 240 pixel image video of like RAR file 1 of 615, and then 3 of them were not readable and these kind of things. But yeah,
I mean,
I think this
the
is
joy I had with mailboxes back in the day. I used to do technical support for the world's worst ISP. Some of the things we did, like, I think I can safely say this now. It's been a long time. Someone accidentally sent out an email to every single user with an email address on our ISP. It was either it shouldn't have gone to anyone or it had incorrect information, and they made us log into everybody's mailbox and manually delete each
wow.
and every one.
What?
That's a court case
Wow.
waiting to happen, isn't it? Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to struggle to find anyone to sue these days, but this was around the before the turn of the millennium. It was still dial-up.
It was definitely before GDPR, wasn't it? Yeah.
Very much so. But even so, everybody knew it was wrong.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
I've actually, at some point, I'm supposed to be going on Gareth Edwards, also known as Gareth or John Bull's history podcast, to talk about some of the obscure tech history of the early internet and the moment when internet in the UK switched over from pay per month to 0845 numbers, because the company that I was working for were largely responsible for triggering the start of that and the start of advertising in toilets. So we've got a lot to apologize for.
Huh.
Oh, wow. I remember the Google office in New York had like printouts of bugs on the toilet doors that basically you could go back and fix on your desk when you're actually there. So that was another thing where I was like, okay, that's a bit much. But I found,
look, toilet time, shower time is fantastic for working things out. Don't try and force it. It makes it unnatural.
What now?
This has been a public health announcement.
I was going to say you walked right into that one, but we're talking about public toilets, so no.
Yeah. It's going to be tricky. Yeah, but yeah, it's. I mean, there's advertising in like urinals at like in some pubs here, and you're like, seriously, like there's a little LCD screen while you're peeing, and you're like, why would you do that?
Yeah, I remember when someone had the bright idea of putting a light sensor on one, and you walk past them. This is way before LCD screens, and you walk past it, and it triggered a recording, so that adverts in the toilet were talking to you when you walk past. And I was just like, oh my god, I know exactly who to blame for this.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe it was inevitable anyway, but I know the guy who first bought toilet space for wall space for advertising in motorway service stations in the UK, and it was not a thing before that. And unsurprisingly, he was an incredibly skeezy salesman.
The 1 million pixel. No, let's not go there. 1 million pixel thing. Like, yeah, it's. I mean, streaming is a big thing. So it's.
Well, it is in your eyes.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay, we're getting off topic because we never had one. But it's great to see you again. Like, and this is a great talk. And
it's been really good fun.
Hopefully, we're going to get you at the show, at the Congress. If not, we're going to get you.
You've
more
asked
on
me
the
to be a
show.
moderator. And if anybody's interested, I'm also on stage with David Whitney discussing the AI bubble on the 17th at Kensington Town Hall for CityJS conference. And that's
cool.
on the schedule at the moment.
Yeah, and it's Aris is the organizer again of CityJS,
Yeah.
so you don't have to worry about time. because like, I mean, I've seen talks of like 1.5 hours at this conference, and like talks.
I mean, we've got a lot to
3
cover in a half hour. The first one we did it, JS Monthly went down an absolute storm. Small room, great interaction with the crowd. Going to have to be more structured. Can't just have people like that's the size room, people just shouting out questions as we go along. So it'll be interesting to see how it evolves.
Yeah, DevOps is coming again to the UK as well, to London. So that's another interesting one to take a look at lately. And there's going to be a half stack in Vienna as well this year where I'm going to speak at. So there might be some weird geeky going into depth of like things.
I must have a word with Dylan and see what can be done there. I don't know if the schedule is already full, but as I say, I've never been to Vienna, and I would love to get some more outings.
Cool. And that was our outing of today. So thanks very much, David. Thanks very much, Daniel. Any last words for our millions of viewers out there from you, David?
Butlerian Jihad now.
All right. Fair enough. This is what we need to cut out if we're going to get this monetized. So, Daniel, what's the last word from you?
Yeah, there's a problem there. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's okay.
I managed not to swear.
Yeah, fuck
and
that.
even if you did, you're making more work for me, both of you. I would just say go and play with some images, do some of this deep diving stuff, and like you said, David, just play with something because you enjoy it. It hasn't got to be it hasn't got to be for a purpose other than, what was it you said, Chris? Cute and useless, or cute and pointless. Why not go with that as your goal?
It's all valuable learning.
Absolutely.
I've been described as cute as pointless for years. So thanks very much for watching, and we're going to see you next Wednesday, and we're going to see you in the Coffee with Developers podcast. Thanks very much, David. See you soon.
Thanks, guys.